Hey folks, welcome back to another video on the Decision Desk HQ YouTube channel. I'm Ryan Gest, Elections Data Fellow here at DDHQ, and for this week's 2024 general election analysis video, I am going to take a look at what a potential 2024 electoral college map could look like based on Decision Desk HQ and the Hill's polling averages, which you can check out at elections2024.thehill.com. It'll also be the very first link in the description of this video below. Now, in order for a race, or in this case a state rather, to have a polling average, there must be a minimum of at least 5 qualifying polls in said state. As of recording this video, we have released polling averages for 12 states: California, Nevada, and Arizona, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, New Hampshire, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. These are the states that we will be taking a closer look at in this video. The rest of the states have already been filled out based on the 2020 presidential election results. States occupying the darkest shade of blue or red, labeled as safe states, are those won by Biden or Trump by more than 15 points in that election. Those in the next lightest shade, the likely states, were decided between 5 to 15 points. And finally, the very lightest shade, the lean states, between 0 to 5 points. As you can see here, with these 12 states made blank for now, Democrats lead Republicans 174 to 166 in the electoral count. 270 electoral votes are required to win the presidential election. Let's start out west in California, the deep blue West Coast state that has not voted Republican since 1988 and has backed Democratic presidential candidates by more than 15 percentage points in 4 straight contests. Our current polling average has Biden ahead of Trump by 19.1%, with 52.1% of support to Trump's 32.9%. Based on 11 polls surveyed of this race in California that you see here. Unsurprisingly, Biden has led Trump by at least 13 points in every single one of these surveys, with some margins being as high as 35 points. That does mean that California and its 54 electoral votes, the most of any state, will remain in the most solidly blue column and provide a major boost to Democrats' electoral count. Moving just to the east, in Nevada though, a battleground in 2024, Democrats won it by just 2.5 points in both the 2016 and 2020 elections. The GOP has been targeting this race over the last decade as a potential flip, in large part due to its favorable demographics for the party, as well as the fact that it has shifted nearly 5 points to the right relative to the nation since 2012, the 5th strongest shift towards Republicans of any state the Democrats won in the last 2 elections. The GOP also flipped the governor's office in 2022 and came less than a point from unseating a relatively popular Democratic incumbent, Catherine Cortez Masto, in those midterms as well. Our polling average here is based on 14 polls, and Trump is leading Biden by 4.6%. with each of the last 4 polls surveying this race showing Trump ahead of Biden by at least 3 points. Biden had previously led in 4 of the previous 6 polls fielded earlier in 2023. This, of course, means that the state of Nevada will be placed in the lightest shade of red as lean Republican, as the polling margin is less than 5 points in favor of Trump. Just to the southeast of Nevada, we have another battleground in Arizona, which Biden carried in 2020 by just 0.3%. The Grand Canyon state had previously been a reliably Republican state, backing the GOP in 5 consecutive contests between 2000 to 2016. Democrats, however, have since won 3 straight Senate races in Arizona, and they just flipped the governor's office in 2022 as well. That said, though, given its close 2020 margin and previous Republican success, it is sure to be near the top of the RNC's target board in 2024. Our current polling average for this race has Trump leading Biden by 6.8% based on 21 polls. Every poll taken in Arizona since June of last year has shown Trump ahead of or tied with Biden, with each of the last 5 polls taken showing him at least 4 points in front. These are seriously impressive numbers for Trump, as Arizona becomes the first state to go in the likely Republican column, with its margin falling between 5 to 15 points in favor of Trump. Shifting all the way over, though, now to the Midwest, Iowa may currently have the nation's attention with its upcoming Republican caucuses, though that attention will fade thereafter as Iowa is no longer a competitive state in general presidential elections. It backed Trump by more than 8 points in 2016 and then again in 2020, as it, along with Ohio, are now firmly off the target board for the DNC. Ohio also went for Trump by more than 8% in both elections, and neither state has voted for a Democrat not named Sherrod Brown in a major statewide race, that being presidential, Senate, or gubernatorial, since Barack Obama's victory in 2012. Our polling average in Iowa has Trump ahead by just a smidge below double digits at 9.9% based on 6 polls, all of which show Trump with a commanding advantage. Our polling average in Ohio also looks very similar at Trump plus 10.4 based on 6 polls as well. Again, all of which have him leading by a comfortable margin. Both of these states, therefore, go in the second darkest shade of red as likely Republican states with margins between 5 to 15 points. The other 2 states just to the north that we can also look at in tandem with each other, Michigan and Wisconsin, both went to Trump by less than a point in 2016 and then flipped back in favor of Biden by narrow margins in 2020. In fact, Wisconsin and Michigan have voted for the same candidate as one another in each of the last 8 presidential elections since 1988. Prior to 2016, they had voted Democrat in every one of those elections. But as Republicans have made gains among white working-class voters in the Midwest, these 2 states have become a lot more friendly to GOP presidential candidates, namely Trump, over the last decade. They'll once again, of course, be critical battlegrounds in 2024 as we take a look at the DDHQ The Hill polling average in Wisconsin. Trump leads Biden by just 0.7% based on 11 polls, a remarkably similar number to Trump's 2016 margin of victory in Wisconsin that was 0.77%. Trump has led in 3 of the last 4 polls in this race, though Biden had led in most previous polls. As for the state of Michigan, which has tended to be a little bit more favorable to Democrats in recent years than Wisconsin has, Trump's lead here is actually all the way up to 6.9%, almost the same margin he leads Biden with in Arizona. This average is based on 18 polls, again with the last 4 of which showing Trump ahead of Biden by at least 4 points, with 2 at Trump plus 10. Going back to the electoral map, Wisconsin will go in the lightest shade of red, at Trump plus 0.7, while Michigan goes in the next darker shade at Trump plus 6.9. Alrighty, 5 states remain with 79 electoral votes up for grabs. The race to 270 is very close right now, with Republicans taking a 231 to 228 lead for now, as we head to New Hampshire, where Biden was victorious by 7.5 points in 2020. Hillary Clinton famously won this purple in a New England blue haystack state in 2016 by just 0.3% and a raw vote margin of less than 3,000 votes. It has not voted for a Republican since 2000, but is consistently much closer, in margin at least, than the other states in the Northeast. Biden's lead in the DDHQ polling average is 5 points based on 7 polls. His lowest margin of lead in any of them is 1 point, but that was in January of last year. He has led by at least 5 points in each poll since. Over on the map, New Hampshire goes into the lean Democrat column, temporarily putting Democrats ahead of Republicans in the Electoral College count by just 1 vote. Down in Virginia, Biden carried its 13 electoral votes by just over 10 points in 2020, the largest margin for a Democrat in this formerly reliably Republican state since 1944. Democrats have now won 4 straight presidential elections in Virginia, both of the last 2 by at least 5 points. Transitioning over back to our polling average for this race in Virginia, we have Biden ahead of Trump by 4.9% based on 10 polls included in this average, with the incumbent Democrat at 48.4% and Trump at 43.5%. Just one poll, though, taken since July of last year has returned a margin of less than Biden plus 4. And going back to the map, Virginia at 4.9 falls just below likely Dem territory and will instead be classified as lean Dem. North Carolina is the next state, a perennial purple state that has now consistently backed Republicans by narrow margins in recent election cycles. Trump won by 3.5 points in 2016 and 1.5 points in 2020. It's a state that Republicans will absolutely need to hold in 2024 if they are to take back the White House. And as of now, Trump does hold a strong 8-point advantage in our polling average based on 12 polls surveying this contest. Trump has led by 9, 12, and 9 points in the last 3 polls from the Morning Consult, Telegraph, and Bloomberg, dating back to early November. Now, all of this means that North Carolina will be placed in the likely Republican column. Georgia and Florida remain, and while they border each other in the South, they honestly could not be more different, electorally speaking. While Georgia has shifted 7.5 points towards Democrats compared to the nation at large since 2012, the 5th most of any state, Florida has shifted 4.7 points to the right, the 16th strongest Republican shift. Biden won Georgia by 0.2% in 2020, the first time it voted for a Democratic president since 1992, while Trump won Florida, meanwhile, by 3.4%, making it one of just 8 states to vote for Trump by a larger margin in the 2020 election than in the 2016 election. Republican incumbents in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Marco Rubio, were then reelected in 2022 by 19 and 16 points, respectively. While in Georgia, Democrats suddenly hold both Senate seats, winning 3 straight such contests after previously not having won a Senate race in the state since 2000. In our polling averages for these races, Trump does lead Biden in Georgia by 6 points based on 15 polls. He's led in 11 straight such polls, though there has not been a survey released assessing Georgia's presidential race since early December of 2023. Taking a look at Florida, Trump leads here as well, but by 9.1%, good enough to place it in likely Republican territory. Trump has led in all but one single poll out of the 8 included in this average. He's hitting 46.5% to Biden's 37.4% in the Sunshine State. With that said, let's go back to the map, where you can see that both Georgia and Florida will go in the likely Republican column, as Trump leads by more than 5 points, but less than 15 points in both states. And so that wraps up these race ratings based on the DDHQ and the Hill polling averages, which you can again check out at elections2024.thehill.com. Republicans lead in the race to 270 with 293 electoral votes, to Democrats 245. Feel free to leave your thoughts, comments, and reactions in the comments below. That's all though for this Decision Desk HQ video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click that like button down below if you did indeed like the video, and subscribe to the channel down below as well if you haven't already. Also check out more content from our channel here, and we'll catch you next time.